Hey y'all, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am so excited to have you back. I know that it's been quite a while since I've jumped on here, but really wanted to come back and tell y'all about just kind of the recap of what's been happening and the outlook as to what is to come, because there's some exciting things. So let's dive right in. Number one is just kind of the recap um, of where we've been, right? So number one is over the summer, obviously in Texas heat, it is just brutal to train in, but have had an absolute blast, honestly, in trying to keep up with a lot of the training volume. Training for a 70.3 race is a lot different than training for a 140.6 in the sense of just overall volume. And it's really fun to kind of look back on where I've come from in a pre 70.3 mile race, and working towards that 140.6 distance, and just kind of all the variances, changes, even body composition changes that I've personally seen as well. So kind of really cool to um, just be able to look back and whether it's looking back at some of our training plans, or kind of how I was feeling versus now, right? So I'm really excited to kind of continue this training aspect. We only have, gosh, just under 6 weeks until Ironman Florida 140.6. So it's really exciting to continue to build. Now, it's not all lollipops and cherries and all that fun stuff. It's exhausting. It's tiring. It's you find that you are leaning a lot more on your people, right? And your communities, just because your body is exhausted. And sometimes when your body is exhausted, that can translate to anything from, just the overall training volume to losing sleep to improper nutrition. And as we know, they all tie together as a whole. And so sometimes it creates a little bit of fluctuation in how we feel throughout the week. But I will tell you, when I nail a week of training, I feel so good, because a lot of times there's things I just don't want to do, and that's okay. Um, but at the end of the day, my wife is fantastic in telling me, like, just start, just start the workout, and getting us, anybody, to, whether that's going to the gym, like getting us in the gym door is half the battle, right? Getting us to the start line, half the battle. Actually, probably more than half the battle, right? And so I think that when she tells me, like, just start, it truly is a place of, like, you can do this. I know that you can do this. Um, you just have to be willing to tell yourself and prove to yourself that you can do this. So super good stuff there. Lots of training volume as we are preparing for the 140.6. Prior to that, we've got, and in just under 2 weeks from today, we have Ironman Waco 70.3. So as you may remember, this was my first Ironman event, my first long distance triathlon, and really actually my third triathlon ever, because the first two were just sprint triathlons prior, leading up to Ironman Waco 70.3 last year. So I'm super excited this year to kind of run it back. In a sense, there's the course is largely the same. They've made a couple of updates to the bike course, and I printed my athlete guide out today. However, in the athlete guide, the bike course is not yet published. So stay tuned. I'm excited to kind of see, what may have changed a little bit here and there on that bike course. If you recall, just kind of my recount from last year's race, you can check that video out. We'll link it below. But that bike course it's slated to be flat, and it's not. There's quite a few hills that I had not trained for at all last year, but I do feel pretty comfortable with the amount of elevation gain in it this year. Just kind of seeing, what happened last year into, the training blocks we've had this year and how that will transpire on race day in just under 2 weeks. So super excited for that. I will say it's a little odd for me personally. It's the first Ironman event that I'm going to that I actually don't have friends racing in. So I'm a little feeling like, oh, uh, who's going to be there? Besides the other, 1,500, 2,000 athletes, I think it'll be fantastic. It'll be a great day. And I'm really excited to go ahead and run it back this year. So again, just under 2 weeks there. I've made some changes to my bike, which is exciting and nerve-wracking all at the same time. So exciting in the sense that um, I'm taking my tubed tires to tubeless, and so those are being changed out as we speak. The cool thing is that my wheel set was actually already tubeless ready. So they were just checking the tape, putting on the tires, and inserting the goo, which I'm really excited about. And I'm really excited to kind of race in those and really try out that different pressure tire PSI, because if you've ever ridden a TT bike or a tri bike before, um, one, they're stiff already, right? The bike frames are pretty stiff, but then you put on 110 psi in your tire and it is feeling every nook and cranny and pebble on the road. And so I'm really excited to kind of take that change and see how that translates over into tubeless tires. And honestly, it's one of those things where on race day, if you're on the bike ever, you're just like, don't let me have a flat, don't let me have a flat, don't let me have a flat, right? Like there's like, don't let me have a flat and don't let me crash on the bike. Like you get me through that and we're good to go. So I think just kind of taking out one of the um, let's not have a flat will reduce a little bit of the race day anxiety, which I think is fantastic. Separately, there's been this clicking as I make a rotation in my bike. I've luckily had friends help me check it out. I've tightened things and taken wheels off and reconfigured some things, and including realigning the rear derailleur, and there's just a lot to it, and I still cannot find the root of the clicking sound. So luckily the bike shop is checking on that. We should have our bike back tomorrow, if not Wednesday. So super excited to kind of see how that all checks out and transpires. That being said, quick recap of the past two events that I've done. Number one was the Blackland Tri down in Plano, Texas. This was actually my first triathlon ever last year in 2023. Sprint triathlon, super well organized, fantastic team that puts it on. What I love is they have a whole kids triathlon event before the adults. So the kids go really early in the morning. And what's super fun is our oldest daughter wanted to do it this year as the kids kind of sprint try. And it was a 100-meter swim, like a 3.5 mile bike ride, something like that, and then a 0.62 mile run. And oh my gosh, it was number one, so fun to see the kids just get out there and race. But then two, as soon as our daughter went through the finish line, she said, absolutely, I want to do this again next year, which I think is so fantastic and super exciting. But I got to run that course back this year, which was a lot of fun. Honestly, it's a super great sprint try, 300-meter pool swim, in a 50-meter pool. And then you've got, I think it's a 13 and a half, 14-mile bike ride, somewhere in there, which is super nice course. I will say there's a couple hills on there that are absolutely humbling. And then followed by a 5K, which the 5K is pretty nice. It's really unprotected from it's the sun, so it's right out in the sun, so it's pretty brutal. But luckily you finish pretty early. That was a fantastic event to go to again this year. And then this past weekend, me and some friends actually did a 100-mile bike rally out in Greenville, Texas, which was super fun. It was nice to check the box of a century ride off, especially as we head into Ironman Florida 140.6. So super nice to check that box and be able to say, hey, yeah, like, one, I've done a century, but two, it was really nice to have that support in doing a century. So have fully stocked aid stations, and just knowing that there was a lot of race support throughout the 100-mile ride, so that folks could, you had a pop tire, whatever it might be, they would come help you. So really enjoyed that bike rally this weekend as well. I will say heat indexes were over 100, so it was really hot, and really took a lot out of me personally. Sunday was a little bit more of active recovery, where just trying to force down a lot of liquids, make sure we're rehydrating, because it definitely depleted a lot out of me. Um, but all that to say, there's definitely some fun things coming up as we head into the next 6 weeks. And the next video will be posted here soon, and it will be our beginning of what we're packing for Ironman Waco 70.3. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all soon.